Welcome to Everyday English with Annie.
And today, we are doing something pretty exciting.
Yeah, we are. Today's deep dive is actually doubling as a really fascinating English listening practice session for you.
Right, because we're going to explore this pretty radical, totally counterintuitive question. Like, what if trying to be happy is the exact thing that's making you miserable?
I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But we're pulling apart Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck, to figure out if you can actually choose your problems in life.
And this whole premise, it completely short-circuits the conventional self-help industry.
Oh, absolutely. Because, you open your phone and what do you see? It's just relentless positivity everywhere.
Exactly. You're supposed to, manifest your dreams and engineer this life that has absolutely zero friction.
Everyone's having the perfect European vacation or, doing their flawless 5 a.m. morning routine.
Right, but when you look at the psychological mechanics of that mindset, that friction-free mindset, it's actually a recipe for deep unhappiness.
Because if you're just having a normal, mundane Tuesday, you suddenly feel bad about the fact that you feel bad.
Yes. And Manson calls this the feedback loop from hell, which is honestly just an incredibly accurate description of a glitch in the human brain.
Wait, a glitch? Like an evolutionary glitch?
Yeah, exactly. Because we have this thing called metacognition, the ability to think about our own thoughts.
Right.
And from a survival standpoint, that's great. But psychologically today, it's a trap. Like, say you get anxious about a presentation. Biologically, that's normal. It's just a spike in cortisol.
Sure, just your body getting ready.
But then your metacognition kicks in and goes, wait, confident people don't get anxious. Why am I anxious? I must be broken.
Oh, wow. So now you're anxious about being anxious.
Exactly. You've effectively doubled the negative emotion. You're in a self-amplifying loop.
It's like staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. when you have an early flight, right?
Oh, that is the perfect example.
You look at the clock and you're like, I have to sleep right now. And just the sheer desperation of wanting to sleep floods you with adrenaline.
Right, making you completely wide awake.
Yeah. The desire to get the positive state is actively blocking you from it.
Which brings us to what philosopher Alan Watts called the backwards law.
Hmm.
The idea is that wanting a positive experience is inherently a negative experience.
Because wanting it just reminds you that you don't have it.
Exactly. Desiring wealth reminds you that you feel poor. But the paradox, the backwards law, is that accepting a negative experience is actually a positive experience.
Like saying, you know what, I'm just going to be tired tomorrow and that's fine.
And the moment you do that, the anxiety drops, and you usually fall right asleep.
Which makes me think of Charles Bukowski. I mean, by all traditional metrics, the guy was a mess.
Oh, total opposite of a self-help success story.
Right. He worked at a post office for decades, struggled with alcoholism, gambled his money away, and then at age 50, he gets a book deal and sells millions of copies.
But the wild part is his tombstone.
Yeah. His tombstone literally says, don't try. How does someone achieve the American dream by refusing to try?
Well, he essentially hacked the backwards law. He succeeded because he was radically, unflinchingly comfortable with himself as a failure.
So he really just didn't care.
Well, not that he didn't care about anything. The title of the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck, is often misunderstood as a call to be totally apathetic, like a psychopath.
Right, just being indifferent to the world.
But it's not that at all. It means choosing what truly matters to care about. Bukowski cared about the raw, painful reality of his writing.
He just didn't give a feck about commercial success or rejection letters.
Exactly. And by not fighting his negative reality, he removed all the psychological friction that stops most people from actually doing the work.
So if wanting positive experiences backfires, we basically have to redefine what happiness actually is.
We do. Because we operate under this delusion that happiness is a destination.
Yeah.
An endpoint where all your problems just magically stop.
Which isn't how biology works.
Not at all. Think about the story of the Buddha. He's born a prince, walled off from the world, given every luxury.
Kept totally ignorant of disease and aging and all of that.
Right. He had zero traditional problems.
Mm-hmm.
But he realizes this engineered pleasure is completely hollow.
So he sneaks out of the palace.
Yeah, and he swings to the absolute extreme opposite. He starves himself, seeks out extreme physical suffering.
And what's his ultimate takeaway from all that?
That suffering just exists everywhere. It's the baseline condition. The rich suffer because of the paranoia of wealth, and the poor suffer because of the brutality of poverty.
Which perfectly brings up my favorite concept from the book, Disappointment Panda.
Yes, the best superhero.
It's this mental image of a guy in a cheap panda mask going door to door delivering harsh truths. And his main message is that problems never go away. They just get upgraded.
Right. You solve the problem of a cramped apartment by buying a house.
And boom, now you have a leaky roof and property taxes.
Exactly. Because of the hedonic treadmill, our brains quickly adapt to our new circumstances and return to a baseline level of dissatisfaction.
So if problems are constant, happiness can't be a problem-free life.
Happiness is the active process of solving them. If you avoid your problems, you're miserable. The joy is found in the friction of the solving.
But, okay, let me push back on this for our listener. Because it's really easy to say, enjoy the problem solving, but most people just want the reward.
Well,
right?
of course they do.
They want the corner office, they want the fairy tale romance. The end result is what gets us motivated.
But that's exactly what Manson calls the rock star fantasy.
Oh, where he wanted to be a famous musician when he was younger.
Right. He wanted the stadium crowds and the applause, but he got nowhere near it. Why? Because he didn't actually want to play music.
He didn't want to haul heavy gear into a dive bar on a Tuesday.
Exactly. He didn't want the broken strings and the grueling rehearsals. He only wanted the highlight reel. So the question isn't, what do you want to enjoy?
It's what pain do you want to sustain?
Yes. You have to choose your struggle.
That reframes everything. So the person who actually enjoys the burning muscles at the gym gets the physique.
And the person who can tolerate the lonely hours staring at a blank page becomes the novelist.
So joy is really just the byproduct of choosing your struggles and managing them.
Right. If you aren't willing to sustain the pain associated with a goal, it's not a goal, it's just a fantasy.
Okay, I track with you on careers and fitness, but I want to throw a thought experiment at you on behalf of the listener.
All right, lay on me.
What happens when life drops a horrific, painful problem in your lap that you didn't ask for?
Like a tragedy or an illness?
Yeah. Imagine you're walking home and someone puts a gun to your head and forces you to run a 26-mile marathon right then and there.
That would be incredibly traumatic.
Right. But now imagine you trained for months and chose to run those exact same 26 miles voluntarily. The physical pain, the blisters, the exhaustion is identical.
But the chosen one is a milestone,
Mm.
and the forced one is a nightmare.
Exactly. So how do we apply this feeling of choice to things that are genuinely not our fault?
That is definitely the most difficult hurdle in this whole framework, and it requires dismantling what he calls the responsibility fault fallacy.
Because we tend to fuse those two things together.
We do. We think if something isn't our fault, it isn't our responsibility. But fault is past tense. It's about what already happened. Responsibility is present tense.
It's about what you do next, like the analogy of waking up and finding a newborn baby left on your front porch.
Right. You didn't ask for the baby. It's absolutely not your fault. But the second you open the door.
It is undeniably your responsibility to decide what to do.
Precisely. And staying in that fault mindset is tempting because blaming others gives you a quick hit of dopamine. It feels good to be the victim,
Because it lets you off the hook. You don't have to take action.
but it leaves you entirely powerless. Look at William James, the 19th century philosopher. He was born with terrible health issues, blindness, back spasm.
Things he didn't ask for and couldn't control.
Not his fault at all. By his late 20s, he's suicidal. But he conducts this radical experiment. He decides to spend 1 full year taking 100% responsibility for everything in his life.
Regardless of whose fault it was.
Yep. And taking responsibility didn't magically cure his blindness, but it shifted his focus to the agency he had. And he went on to become the father of American psychology.
So the takeaway for you listening is that you don't get to choose the cards you're dealt, but you are always responsible for how you play the hand.
Exactly. But, and this is a big step, but taking responsibility only works if you're using the right metrics to measure your success.
Oh, right, because you can work hard and still be miserable if your internal yardstick is broken.
Exactly. Let's look at Dave Mustaine. Back in 1983, he gets unceremoniously kicked out of his band right before their debut album, handed a bus ticket, and sent away.
Which is brutal.
It is. He was furious. So he forms a new band, vowing to be more successful than the guys who fired him. That band was Megadeth, and they sold 25 million records.
Which sounds like a huge win, except the band that fired him was Metallica.
Who sold over 180 million albums.
Right. And decades later, Mustaine admitted he still felt like a failure, even as a multi-millionaire rock icon.
Because his metric was, I must be more successful than Metallica. By that metric, he was always going to lose.
It was a shitty value because it was totally out of his control.
Now contrast that with Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles.
Yeah.
He gets kicked out right before Beatlemania.
Same exact traumatic situation.
Yeah, and he gets depressed. But eventually, he shifts his values. He decides to prioritize building a loving family and a simple life. And years later, he said he was likely happier than he would have been with the Beatles.
Because he chose a good internal value. Things like honesty or being a good parent are in your control.
While shitty values like material success or always being right leave you at the mercy of the world.
But what if you're listening right now and you realize your values are terrible? Changing them is terrifying. It threatens your identity.
What Manson calls Manson's law of avoidance. The more something threatens your identity, the more you avoid it.
So how do you actually bridge that gap and change?
To rethink motivation. We usually think it goes inspiration, then motivation, then action.
Like you have to wait to feel inspired before you do anything.
Right. But it's actually a loop. Action leads to inspiration, which leads to motivation. Manson learned this from his high school math teacher, Mr. Packwood.
Oh, I love this part. What did the teacher say?
He said, if you're stuck on a math problem, don't just sit there. Just start writing numbers down. The physical act lowers the cognitive stakes and ideas start to surface.
The do something principle.
Yes, you don't need a lightning bolt of inspiration. Just do one microscopic thing. Action becomes your only metric for success.
But when you start taking action and choosing better values, you inevitably have to reject other options, right?
You do. And we live in a consumer culture that hates the word no. We're told more is always better. Keep options open, swipe endlessly on apps.
Which just creates the paradox of choice. Like when you have 50 options on Netflix and you spend an hour scrolling.
And then you feel anxious and dissatisfied with whatever you pick because you're haunted by the 49 things you didn't watch.
Right. So true freedom actually comes from committing.
Exactly. Rejecting alternatives and committing fully to one place, one partner, or one craft brings immense freedom and depth. You can't experience the depth of a 20-year marriage without rejecting the shiny distractions.
And this brings us to the ultimate boundary that defines all our choices, the ultimate metric.
Our own mortality.
Which sounds super bleak.
It does, but it's actually incredibly liberating. Ernest Becker wrote about this in his Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Denial of Death.
Because humans are uniquely aware that we're going to die.
Right, and that creates a subconscious death terror. So to cope, we build what Becker calls immortality projects.
Like trying to build a conceptual self that lives forever.
Amassing fortunes, putting our names on buildings, projecting ambitions onto our kids. But Becker realized these projects are the root cause of most human conflict.
Because my immortality project might clash with yours.
Exactly. His conclusion was that we have to actively confront the reality of our own physical death.
Manson illustrates this so viscerally when he visits the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. He walks right up to the edge of this massive cliff dropping into the ocean.
And his biology just takes over, right?
Oh yeah, adrenaline spikes. His brain is screaming at him to step back. But in that moment, standing inches from death, everything else just vanishes.
Because suddenly the fact that your coworker didn't invite you to lunch looks completely absurd.
Acknowledging you will die obliterates all those crappy, fragile values.
It forces you to ask, what is your legacy? How will you leave the world slightly better?
So as we wrap up this English listening practice deep dive for you, let's summarize the journey we just took.
You can't avoid problems, but you can choose better ones.
Right. You have to take responsibility even when things aren't your fault.
Use the do something principle to take action when you're stuck.
And let the reality of your mortality guide you toward what actually matters.
And I want to leave you with one final thought to really chew on. If the avoidance of pain is itself a form of suffering, how might our modern obsession with comfort, convenience, and protecting everyone from friction actually be designing a new, hidden form of mass suffering? One we haven't even recognized yet.
Wow. Now that is a thought that will keep you up at night.
It really shifts how you look at the world.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it was fantastic English practice and that it gave you the tools to stop trying so hard to be perfect and start choosing your struggles wisely. We'll see you next time.